Step in, lean in, mic on, and begin. Hey! Been quiet too long, chewed up tongue. Turn down songs, clock keeps ticking on the wall. But your name's still missing from the roll call. Let your voice be heard, say every single word. From the low notes to the sky, throw your hands up high. Let your voice be heard, loud, clear, undeterred.
Got a light, buddy?
Yeah, sure, kid. There you go.
And your wallet.
Nick, give him your wallet.
If it shakes the room, that's how you know it's you, yeah. Oh, yeah. You got a truth tucked deep in your chest. Heartbeat tapping out, say it, confess. Crowd might stare, let them do what they do. They never held a fire living in you.
Recording in progress.
Let your voice be heard. Say every single word. From the low notes to the sky. Throw your hands up high. Let your voice be heard. Loud, clear, undeterred. If it shakes the room, that's how you know it's you, yeah. Speak up, name your dream out loud. Stand up, you're the leader of this crowd. One spark, one shout, watch the silence melt. That power in your mouth is the truest thing you felt. Oh, let your voice be heard. Say every single word. From the low notes to the sky. Throw your hands up high. Let your voice be heard. Loud, clear, undeterred. If it shakes the room, that's how you know it's you.
Wow. Can you guys hear me now? You hear me now? Okay, we all now. welcome again. Welcome to Let Your Voice Be Heard Talk Radio. Again, my name is Cloyd Holmes. I am the host for Let Your Voice Be Heard Talk Radio. I am excited tonight. I'm anxious for this segment. Mike, I have been looking over your stuff, man, and I'm going to tell you, man, I think even with all of that you've given us, Mike, I think that we just scratching the surface, man. I know that there's so much more, man, that you have so much wisdom and knowledge to give us on things that you've been through. You are personally, like I said, probably my favorite guests. You have inspired me so much, and there's so much encouragement in the things that you've done, the things you've been through, and the things that you have shared with us. I've learned so much. I've been looking over my notes and I'm like, wow. But I know that there's so much more. Most of the people here have been on here and know who you are. You, like I said, after the second time, Mike, you family. So, and you really don't need much of an introduction. But I will let those know who haven't been on here with us. First of all, Mike, this is our second, third show? What is it, our fourth show, fifth show?
This is our fourth.
Our fourth show, yeah. You've been here, man, and you've given us a lot. You've given us a tremendous amount of insight and knowledge on things.
Actually, I think this is number 5.
Number 5, that's what I thought.
Alzheimer's got the best of me there for a minute.
I don't think it's Alzheimer's. You might have what I have. I don't have Alzheimer's. I got sometimes. But yeah, I think this is number 5, Mike. But we have been through a journey with you, man, and what you have been through. I'm going to introduce you to those who may not have been on here. That this is Mike Armour. He's a C-suite coach. Mike is Mike. You were a Navy captain. You said that you've coached over 850 execs. You've written 13 books. Let's just go over some of the things that you've given us, Mike. Well, we talked about trust. That was really big. That I learned so much from that, and I'm sure we're gonna still get into some more of that. We talked about distrust. That was surprising to me that we got into that. And we talked about integrity. You talked about the most daunting challenge of your career was fixing a school that was destined for bankruptcy. We talked about your journey and adventure, so to speak, in Russia and what communism looked like. I got a vivid picture of that. We talked about your visit to Ukraine and the culture of those people and what you've done in that country with those people. We talked about you being a C-suite coach and what that entails. We talked about a lot of stuff, man. We talked about leadership versus management. We talked about leadership and the power of trust, which is the name of one of your books. And I know for a fact that a bunch of these people have went and got your book, have gotten your book. We spoke about the interplay, and this is what I'm going to turn it over to you in a minute, Mike, in a second. We talked about the interplay of 5 fundamental principles. So let's take off. Let's take off right there and work our way to where we left off last week. And we left off with character, but let's work to that and see where this takes us.
Okay,
yeah.
Good.
Mike, the floor is yours, Mike.
Well, those 5 elements that we talked about last week are part of a new construct that I'm working with, still developing some aspects of it, in which I'm trying to show how we build cultures that not only perform, but they hold themselves to high standards, and particularly the standard of excellence. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to build this construct, which I'm calling the congruence spiral, and the reason for that will become apparent in a moment, in order to show that we approach leadership sometimes trying to master 100 different skills, and we are fragmented in our effort. We are focused on one for a while and another for a while, and so there's not continuity in our development. What I came to realize after years of working with leaders in various capacities is that effective leaders really do 5 things well, and that these things link up and form a system if you look at them through the prism that we're going to use tonight. First of all, you start with exemplifying extraordinary character. The 5 things we're going to talk about build on one another, and the starting place is character, which is why we spent so much time with it last week. Character is one of those words that is not fully understood, and I'm going to actually amplify on the way we approach it here in just the next moment or two from the way we talked about it last week, because what we discussed last week was accurate. It just wasn't complete. Basically, character is having alignment, or if you would, congruency between our values, our words, and our actions. Now, when we talk about character, we often associate it with a handful of virtues. Integrity is the most common one, but others like decency and honesty, truthfulness, dependability. It is a cluster of values in one sense, but beyond that, it's also a set of actions and attitudes, such as how do I handle myself in situations of conflict or confrontation? How do I treat people who are not kind or thoughtful in my regard? How do I deal with setback, crisis, and calamity in my life? Those things, too, are a reflection of character. But the structure of character, those are the content of character. The structure of character is that I have alignment between my values, what I say, and what I do. And to the degree that there are gaps in that, then I'm either guilty of compromise or hypocrisy. I haven't really followed through fully in that order. Now then, going back to our discussion of trust, and that's really where all of this started for me. I early came to understand that beneath trust, there has to be good character, because none of us are prone to trust people who repeatedly demonstrate weakness of character. We instinctively get on guard when we're dealing with them. But once we have a character that is respected and trust in us as leaders, then we can move to the next thing, which is maximizing alignment around vision, values, and strategies. Now, character is at the foundation of everything. Not far behind it are values, because values are what we move toward or away from. Values are things that I either aspire to, and I'm going to talk about values here in a different sense from the way you might normally think of it. Values are also what I try to move away from, things I don't want. So if I ask someone what their values are, I will usually get the answer, love, kindness, courtesy, generosity. But failure is as much a value in this structure as is success. Poverty is just as much a value as wealth in this sense, because values are the things we decide we want to attain or the things we want to avoid. And the interesting thing is that about half of us, when we look at the general public, half of us are most motivated by what we aspire to, what we want to gain or accomplish. The other half are more motivated by what they don't want. You can deal with this in counseling situations quite often in ministry. And a couple comes in and they're really at odds with one another, and you're trying to help them save this marriage. And you say to them, tell me what you want. Well, I don't want her doing that. I didn't ask you what you don't want. I want to tell me what you want. Well, I don't like her doing. No, we're back to what you don't want. He is motivated, or she is motivated by what they don't want, not what they want. And they're so focused on what they don't want, they don't have clarity on what they want. And until we can get them to clarity on what they want, we can't move them to where they need to be. So values become so foundational to our motivation that once we have established character as a leader and trust in us as a leader and within our organization, then we want to start aligning everything and everyone around the values, the priorities, and the strategies that we want to be definitive for this organization. Now that we've got people in the right place doing the right things, which is what comes out of alignment, now we need to motivate them and inspire them, and we do that by engaging them. That's where the people side of leadership terribly important because people are not going to be engaged with me. They're not going to be engaged with the organization unless they are feeling a connection that they're not going to get in a distant relationship. I've got to know my people. They've got to know me. They've got to know one another. And it's one of the challenges we're having right now with remote workers. Many companies are starting to say, we're not going to allow anyone to work remotely any longer because it's destroying their company culture. People are not interacting with one another on an hourly basis. As a result, the values and the motivations that drive them are getting very frayed and scattered, and the company is losing its momentum and focus because there's not this oneness of spirit that we get when we are dealing with people on an hourly basis, sometimes multiple times an hour, and we have to build the skills necessary to have an engaged workforce. Then, once we have people motivated and engaged, the table is set for us to create a culture in which people believe in our values, they believe in our priorities, they are committed in a wholesale way to those visions and strategies that we have enunciated, and they are so inspired by those and so motivated by those that they now want excellence in the culture, and they will start demanding culture excellence of themselves and others around them, so that the culture sort of defines itself in terms of its character, a character that is aligned with those values, that vision, those motivations, those strategies that have fed down through this system. So that's a thumbnail sketch of the five. What happens now is that once the culture is fully developed, as the leader, I step back and look at the culture, and I can see places that there's not congruence. I started off by describing character as congruence. That congruence flows through all of this. When we really trust one another, there's congruence within our relationships. We're not at odds. We're not working against one another. We are congruent. We're hooked up. When we are trusting one another, we are pursuing a set of strategies and priorities that are, again, congruent. They have integrity. They work together. They don't work at odds with one another, and everybody's supportive of them. And when I'm motivating and inspiring people, what I'm doing is drawing them into what I'm wanting to do as a leader so that there's congruency there. And then finally, when we have a culture that demands excellence of itself, we're looking for congruence within the culture as to what excellence really means and how we pursue it. As the leader, when I look at that culture, it's like looking in a mirror, and I can see where congruence is not fully there. It's blemished. The effect of the work at building congruence have become somewhat blemished. And what I do now as a leader is that challenges my character as a leader to come in and address those blemishes and build a system that is more fully congruent from top to bottom.
Wow. Listen, Mike, you're giving us so much information here that I don't know if the rest of the people here are grasping all of this stuff. I'm writing so many notes, but I want to do something here. We have something to help us out today, Mike. We got something to help us out to find out more about you, to let us know more about you. We got our hands on a sneak preview of something that I want to share with the panel, and it tells more about you and who you are and what your story is. And we're going to listen to this, and we're gonna come back to you, Mike. But right now, we want to hear from from
Growing up
what
poor
this
on a
is
small
telling us.
country farm, Mike Armour never dreamed of leading on the global stage. But leadership sought him out, and when it did, it gave us a bold visionary who would repeatedly set the status quo on its ear. He did it for the first time as student body president at a racially segregated college, where he successfully campaigned to integrate the campus. This paved the way for a lifetime of transformational endeavors. 3 are particularly noteworthy. First, at age 37, he stepped into the most daunting leadership challenge of his life.
More daunting than anything I faced as a Navy captain. More daunting than serving as CEO of an international nonprofit caught up in the turmoil of the collapse of the Soviet Union.
The challenge was to save a 4-year college on the verge of bankruptcy. He did so with one of the most daring moves in the history of higher education. Second, in his 40s, he pioneered a nationwide program that gave the naval intelligence community unprecedented computing capabilities. Third, in his 50s, he partnered with schools and universities in Russia and Ukraine to transform how they taught character and ethics after the collapse of communism. If these sound like highly diverse endeavors, it's because they are. And we've not touched on his work to rebuild national leadership in Rwanda after the genocide, or his decades of ministry turning around churches in decline, or his founding of a private school that still thrives after 40 years. Put simply, Mike Armour's lifetime of achievement defies simple classification. Even his 5 degrees draw on decidedly different fields of human enterprise, ranging from mathematics to theology to modern diplomacy. Little wonder, then, that he has captivated audiences for decades with perspectives derived from his far-ranging experience. People readily recognize that he speaks from first-hand knowledge, supplemented by what he has learned from coaching more than 850 executives and entrepreneurs across dozens of industries. His insights and illustrations consistently engage, enthrall, and inspire, whether shared through media interviews, keynotes, or his podcasts. Yet, because he has pursued his life with little fanfare, you may be hearing the name Mike Armour for the first time. Audiences, however, never forget him. They especially remember his unique, intriguing stories. Forever the Visionary. His websites describe him as a strategic architect for organizational and executive development. He is also America's foremost authority on trust-centered leadership, the theme of his Amazon bestseller, Leadership and the Power of Trust. It draws on what he learned about trust as one of America's youngest college presidents, turning around that financially troubled campus. For decades now, his perspectives on trust have resonated with audiences around the globe.
So it's in the interest of us as leaders to be proactive in arming our people and our organizations with sufficient trust in depth that it can stand up to the assaults that's going to come when anxiety or even fear begin to nip away at our unity within our organization and therefore its potential to achieve.
Leadership sought out Mike Armour early on, and it's not finished with him yet. Delve into his amazing life of vision, courage, and innovation, as well as his message for today's leaders at keynotesbymike.com.
I muted myself on that. I didn't want to miss anything. Listen, Mike, that was awesome. That was awesome. That gives us who you are in a nutshell. You've been through so. This is why, and I watched that before. This is why I said what I said in the beginning. I said, Mike, we just scratching the surface here. You've been through so much, man. And you have so much to give that it's awesome. It's awesome, and you are very inspiring and encouraging to me, man. I know all of these guys here are hearing things. I'm hearing things that I never heard before. And I'm not ashamed to say that because they're so deep in it that I wasn't thinking these things. And if everybody thought about this, there'd be no need for you, Mike. Nobody thinks about this stuff but a guy like you, man. And it is awesome to hear this stuff. I want to ask you a question, though.
Okay.
I want to ask you because when you were talking, I was writing down stuff, and I got a few questions, but I'm going to ask this question: how do I identify a lack of character in the workplace, in an organization? Because you're looking at character. I'm looking at Jay trying to see who this person is or if they have character. You know, how do I identify a lack of character? Somebody that doesn't have character, but they do a good job.
Well, the question really becomes in the business workplace, whether or not their character flaws interfere with your business objectives.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike a ministry or various nonprofit organizations, a business is not in the job of making people complete persons. A business is in the job of making enough money to keep the doors open. And that means I've hired you to do a certain thing. Some of the most productive workers I've had were not people I wanted my daughter to date or wanted my kids to hang around with in their private life. Okay. Those character flaws had no impact on what they did in the business. So a lot of the question you're asking depends on the nature of the organization that you're leading. In some organizations, moral integrity is really critical. For instance, if I'm running a finance company, I need people who are very ethical and very trustworthy. That may not be so important if I'm running a construction crew and I need someone who's good at nailing shingles. If he can nail shingles, I'm not all that concerned about what he does on Saturday night. Just so long as he shows up Monday morning and can nail a frame of shingles in place a square of shingles in place in a reasonable amount of time. But primarily, what we're concerned about in any instance is what are the values that are critical to the work we are about. And does this person, first of all, espouse commitment to those values?
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, if that person espouses commitment to them, how well is that commitment reflected in action? Ultimately, character is revealed through behavior.
Mm-hmm.
It's not revealed through the values that a company posts on a wall someplace and says, these are our values. The company's character is how they behave. And the values that we espouse may not be the values that we embody. So you're looking for that disconnect. Short answer is we're looking for a disconnect between the critical values for our operation, their commitment to those, and the consistency with which their behavior shows that that commitment is something other than nominal.
When you talk about the character that you're looking for, the character for the people that you are coaching, I'm getting a sense of we're just talking leadership.
Right.
We're talking these people leadership, what they should be looking for in a person in position in their company to lead people, right? Because the people that I'm talking to, I was just talking about, as you brought it to fruition to me, the people I was just talking about are just the workers that I'm looking at. You're talking about from an organizational point of view, correct?
Right.
That's correct.
Right. For leadership, you are looking at different qualifications in terms of character than the people who are just carrying out assigned tasks. And so we need to be very clear about what is needed by way of character at the top. And one of the reasons for that is once you get to the top of an organization, people are measuring you not just by your words, they are reading something into everything you say and how you say it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have such authority, and so much of their career success depends on having your favor, or at least not getting on your wrong side, that they are continually trying to read the nuances in your communication.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need people who can express themselves plainly, people who are not prone to speaking off the cuff and saying things that create challenges. All of those behaviors are part of character. Are you reflective and thoughtful before you speak is a character attribute. I'm not worried about that for someone who's running a press on a manufacturing floor. I'm very concerned about that for someone who wears a title of executive vice president, or higher.
Thank you for that, Mike. I just got a question in the chat that I'm glad somebody asked this question, because I was getting ready to ask something similar. But they said, is leadership something you're born with, or can it be learned?
Leadership can be learned.
Mm.
There are some people for whom it is an easier learning enterprise than it is for others. For instance, extroverted people typically are not intimidated by standing before a group and sharing their thoughts and their mind. Introverted people are. And yet some of the most effective leaders in American business history were very introverted people. When Jim Collins wrote the book 30 years ago now called Good to Great, he looked at about 13 companies that went along as an also-ran in their industry for decades, and then suddenly came out of the pack, established themselves as the decided leader in their industry, and retained that position for years, sometimes even down to the present. And he said, what was the common denominator in those companies at that point where they came out of the pack and went to top leadership or top position? And in every case, it was a change in the CEO. So he began to interview those CEOs. Of the 13, 12 of them were pronounced introverts. Yet they had risen to leadership, even though their introverted personality was not naturally inclined in such a way that they early on stood before an audience or dealt with the challenges that they had to confront in a confident manner. So, first of all, the challenge is one of being a person who has some natural talents that don't need much grooming to step into leadership roles. Other people who don't have those talents, if they're motivated enough, can get there. We've all seen people who were not necessarily leaders, who had a tragedy in their family, an injustice that was committed to someone in their family, and they decided, I've got to do something about that. I've got to organize some people and make this thing right. And they learned how to lead, even though they had never led before. And maybe their first attempts were a bit clumsy and awkward and not particularly successful. But their motivation was such, they stuck with the learning curve and they learned how to lead. And I've coached a number of people who were not leaders when I began working with them, who became leaders over a period of time, once they understood the principles that were most critical for being successful in the sphere of leadership that they were pursuing.
Wow. What is there one specific characteristic that you look for in a person to say they have the qualifications to be a leader?
That is a question that does not have one answer, because leadership in one field is not what's called for leadership in another field.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm building offshore drilling rigs, the leadership for a company that is building that kind of equipment to operate in those kinds of hostile circumstances is completely different from the leadership I'm looking for from someone who's running a food pantry to provide food for hungry people in the neighborhood. Okay?
Okay.
So the question is, what does the organization's mission call for in terms of leadership?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking for people who conform with that profile.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's in terms of their qualifications and experience. But in all cases, if it's a person who's going to be at the top of the leadership hierarchy, I'm looking for someone, going back to, I think, our first conversation, who shows that they have courage
Mm-hmm.
and that they have credibility. If I don't have credibility, I can't build trust. People are not going to trust someone who's not credible. If I don't have courage, I can't make the tough decisions and stick by them when people don't like the decision I've made. And either of those, a lack of credibility or a lack of courage, will doom us in a leadership role, no matter where we're leading.
Mm-hmm. And I received that, Mike, that it's no one answer to my question. I received that because I was just thinking, I was like, if I go to an interview for a position, the person hiring will say, well, this is what I'm looking for.
Right.
And and I might go to another job and they say, well, this is what we're looking for in a person. So there's different things that
and in those cases,
that you
and
need
this
for
is
different
a shortcoming in a lot of job interviews. In those cases, what they're looking for when they give you that list, it's a list of experiences or qualifications that can be certified or validated. They don't ask you questions about character. They don't ask you, what is the toughest decision that you've ever made, and what did you do to cope with the criticism you got for it? Now that will start revealing character. Okay. But those are not the kinds of questions we typically get in interviews.
Right. That's really good. Thank you for that, Mike. Here's another question here for you. It says, no one is perfect, and I'm wondering, what is a common mistake leadership execs make?
First of all, is learning the wrong lessons from success.
That's hard.
Once we succeed at something, we think we know how to do it, and so we quit learning. We quit being open to alternative ways of thinking about the problem, of dealing with certain types of issues that come up in our organization. It's a mistake that is so commonplace. And what I'm finding is that it turns into other problems, because once I think I know how things should be done, I really begin to stifle the creativity of younger leaders that I'm trying to develop, who have their own independent thoughts about how we should be dealing with something. And my sense is that doesn't fit my template. We're not going to do that. And so we don't have the success we need in developing the leadership that's coming on. One of the things all good leaders are doing constantly is preparing for their succession. Every organization I went into to lead it, I was looking for who was going to be stepping up if I were taken out of the picture tomorrow, and who's going to step into the position that is vacated when that person steps up. If we're not thinking that way, we're not thinking about the well-being and the survival of the organization. And that is incumbent upon us as leaders. We are there not only to assure its success in the near term, but to assure sustainable success over the long haul.
Thank you for that. Let me ask right now, is there anyone here has a question? Anyone have a question for Mike? Raise. Karen, is your hand up?
I had a question. I put it in the chat. but it basically was the same thing what you just answered, because my question was, have you ever coached a group of leaders that you had to basically unpack all of what they thought were their leadership skills and get them in alignment to the character that builds trust and stuff? But you just answered that question. So now I have another question because you just touched on something that I've been saying for the longest. When I was hiring someone, I was hiring the person to pass the baton to, that I want to coach and to mentor them to take my position.
Right.
Because my success, regardless of what company I worked for, my success really was the success of my people. That, you know, when I step away, they go and they have gone on to great positions. But what happens, and I'm experiencing this, that I hired someone that I thought would be a very good fit for me to pass the baton to, and then, you know, as the time went on, I realized that she's not that person. She doesn't have, I don't know if she just doesn't want to do the job. Sometimes these people get into these positions and they're looking for the money, but not the want to do the work. Mm-hmm. And so that goes to character, I think, because they're not in alignment with being a leader. They just want the money. So what do you do when you experience that? Like, I'm really at a crossroads where I want to scream.
When you brought her on board, did she know soon thereafter that you were grooming her to take your place?
Yes.
Okay. Have you had an accountability conversation with her that says, to take my place, you need to be doing these things better, and here are some things I want to see you doing to evidence that you're working in that direction? You've had that?
Like a roller coaster. Like she does it, and then she slacks off. Then and it's very disheartening, because I had such great hopes, and then I had to basically look at myself and take me out of the equation, because I wanted it so much for her. And you can't want something for someone that they don't want it for themselves, right? So I had to take me out of it. And as a leader, you know, in an organization, that you want to groom leaders. You want them to be leaders. You want the company to be successful, and you want them to be successful as well. And, you know, I guess, and you have to take yourself out of it, because then you'll get stuck. And that's where I am right now. I kind of got stuck and personalized it. And so, you know, my question to you is, you know, during these interview processes and grooming people, when do you cut the tie? Like, when do you say, nope, this isn't going to work?
Well, you know, one of the words that's an equivalent of trust is faith. Actually, in the New Testament, the same Greek word is translated faith and trust from one passage to the next. We trust people. We have faith in people. And if we take it away from trust, because if I say, you know, I really don't have trust in her, that sounds like I'm indicting her ethics, her virtues, her values. But if I say I don't have faith in her, that's a little bit softer. I would start saying to myself, you know, I no longer have faith in her to perform in this role. Now, you remember a while ago that I talked about credibility as being a key in leadership. Mm-hmm. Credibility, I sometimes describe as sitting on a three-legged stool. The first is character. If you're just a personal acquaintance, an associate, I'm going to determine your credibility basically on what I see in your character. And so if we've known each other for a few weeks and had good relationship with you, and then we're at a function someplace and you need to borrow $5 to settle your lunch tab, I'll give you $5. I'll loan you $5 because, you're a person of character. I can trust you. Once you step into a professional relationship with me, I still want you to have good character, but now I want you to have competence. If you're my dentist, if you're the vet for my favorite dog, I want to know that you've got some competence to pull out that knife and start cutting. Okay, so I might think you're a person of character, but I don't think you've got the competence to do this. I've just lost faith in you. When you become a leader, a third element of credibility comes into play, and that is concrete results. There are many people who are people of great character and who really know their stuff professionally. They've got credibility, but they cannot get concrete results for the organization. At some point, the board or the organization or both will lose faith in their ability to lead. That doesn't mean they're a bad person or that they're incompetent. It just means that in this context, they didn't have what it took to turn this situation in the direction it needs to go. And many people who lose a position like that go to somewhere else and have a great career because there's a better match between the way they're aligned and the needs of that organization is aligned, and they're very effective leaders there. So what you're saying is her credibility as a leader has been lost in my faith in her. I still have great faith in her as a professional and as her as a person. It's just that she's a mismatch for this. Now, what are your choices? One, the sooner you confront this with her, that the thing that you had brought her in to achieve, to aspire to, is probably off the table. The sooner you confront it, the sooner, A, you can find the proper replacement, and number two, the less time you're going to spend investing in her for an outcome that you're not going to get. And so I would start off by saying, is this someone I want to save for some other position rather than the one I hired her for?
Right. This is being recorded, right, Cloyd?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, because I have to take every single word that he wrote so that when I fire her, right?
You blame it on.
I just want you to know, thank you very much. I needed that, so I'm going to write every sentence. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mike. All right. We have Steve said, what advice would you give one stepping into a leadership position for the first time?
If you're stepping in out of a employee role and moving into a management role, first thing to realize is that crossing that line from employee to management means that you are now part of the them that you used to complain about. And you can no longer join the grousing about them, meaning leadership, meaning management. Okay? And that's important because part of your role as a manager, whatever the level, is to be the face of the management, face of the organization to your people and to your customers and to your vendors. And that means that even though you may not be supportive of something that management is doing, you put it in the best possible light for the people that you deal with. That's part of your responsibility in the management and leadership role. Now, the next thing is, if I'm not stepping into management or leadership for the first time, if I'm stepping into a leadership role where I'm new to the group, I'm new to the organization, the first thing I want to do is to start building their trust in me. And that means that I don't come in and start making a lot of changes right off the bat. I come in and listen to them. What are their concerns? What are their frustrations? What are their needs? I take what they are already doing, and in my first 30 to 60 days, I try to find a way to make it work better so that they are identifying with me as one of them, okay? And now then, I can begin to subtly and slowly, or more speedily if necessarily, but still in a structured way, making incremental changes that will nudge this organization toward what I think it needs to be doing and needs to be like. If I come in and alienate my team in the first 30 to 60 days, I'm into battle with my team from then on out. It may not be an open battle, but they will be passive aggressive in their response to my leadership. So the first 90 days is prove yourself as one who is there for them. And that means listening to them and helping what they are already doing succeed more effectively. And then once you have that credibility, beginning to press for the major changes that you think are called for.
Thank you for that, Mike. Thank you for that. Yolanda says, how can I establish authority without harming the friendships I have made?
One of the toughest questions that coming into leadership faces, because our friends expect us to treat them differently than we treat everyone else. A lot of it has to do with the tone of voice that we maintain when we are having an accountability conversation with them. We don't pay a lot of attention to tone of voice because we grow up in the United States basically speaking one language, unless you live down on the Mexican border and you pick up English and Spanish. But for the most part, we're a one language nation. That makes us a lot different from the vast majority of nations in the world where people grow up speaking 4 or 5 different languages. And each of those languages has a different tonality, and they learn to listen for the subtle differences in tone. We as Americans are not so consciously aware of the tone in our voice because we are not attuned to tonality, but we react to it unconsciously. We know when there's a tone of upset in someone's voice, or a tone of uncertainty, or a tone of upset or disgust, okay? We can pick up those nuances. And so it's very important that the tone I use when I'm talking to someone like this is one that is warm and affirming. And I am your friend and I want the best for you. And within this organization, the best for you means that you need to step up your game here. And I want to see you do that. And what can I do to help you get there? What can I do to help you get where you need to be? What can I do to get the obstacles out of the way that are preventing you from getting there? Come across still as a friend, as you should do with all of your employees, but especially those who've been personal friends in the past. Come across as a friend who is saying, here's what you're needing to step up to achieve all that you want to achieve in this company, and I want to help you get there. Don't have a scolding voice. Don't have a critical tone. Have a friendly, motherly advice tone. If you had a good mother, but if you didn't have a good mother, forget the motherly tone.
but you're absolutely right, and I think that is got to be one of the hardest things to accomplish.
Yes,
because I've been with you. We've been doing this together, and now it's so easy to be big me, little you now.
Mm-hmm.
Even if that's not on your mind or that's not in your heart, but it's easy to come across like that because of your position now and the things that you cannot do that you used to do.
And one of the things that I've done in situations like that is that I make it a point to go to this person who's my friend and say, I'm thinking about doing this. What are your thoughts on that? And I take them into my counsel more often than I do other employees. I want to do that with, all those who are reporting to me. I want their thoughts. I want their input. But I really go out of my way to see that regularly I'm stroking them in a way that says, hey, I really treasure you as a friend. I really treasure your thoughts. Here's something I'm facing. What are your thoughts on how we ought to approach that? I've got to talk to everybody and see exactly what's the best thing for all of us concerned. But I really want to know what you think would be a good way to solve this problem or deal with this issue or to meet this goal or to overcome this challenge. Act like a friend to them still, even though you're in that role.
To involve them.
Yes.
It's maybe it start to see things your way or the way that you have to look at things now from that perspective.
And one of the things is they will never understand how you've got to look at things. Don't say, I need you to look at this through my eyes. They will never understand it because they don't feel the pressure every day. Mm-hmm. You've got to feel the pressure to understand the complexity of the challenge.
That in the new position you're in, you saw.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They will never see that.
That's
because all they see is where you were.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
This is good stuff, Mike. One last thing that I have that I want to touch on. We went past it, but the values. I want to touch on that real quick. The values, and you said that values are things we want to attain or don't want to attain. Mm-hmm. And I never thought about it like that. So I'm like, wow. So the things that I don't want, for me in my mind, always, well, those are not valuable. That's not, but they are.
Right.
They are.
And here's where that figures in to leadership. And I didn't say this a while ago when we were talking about this, so I'm going to break in and make this point now because it's a very practical consequence. Remember that I said about half of our population is motivated by what they want and the other half by what they don't want. Mm-hmm. Going back to the story a moment ago of the employee who was being groomed for succession but is inconsistent, performs for a while and then doesn't, performs for a while and then doesn't. One of the most common reasons for that is the person is away from motivated. They are more motivated by what they don't want than what they want. It's sort of like all of us in college who finally got motivated to really start studying a week before the finals. Okay. Now, there were other students in the class who were hitting the books every night, and they saw the finals as just another easy step along the way. But for a lot of us, it was the week before finals, we really started studying. We were not motivated by passing the course. We were motivated by not failing the course. And when failure became imminent, we got motivated. Okay, it's sort of like I was jogging one night in the neighborhood we lived in previously, which is by a big lake, and there is a pack of coyotes who live not very far away. And one night I was out jogging about 2 miles, and about a mile and a quarter into it, a coyote loped out on the street in front of me, and stopped in the middle of the street, eyed me carefully, then went on into the shadows. As I came by that point in my jog, I looked over and he was between two houses glaring at me and watching me. I was sort of winded and already a little tired at that point, but I managed to pick up the pace. I managed to find the stuff to pick up the pace. But after I had gone 3 blocks looking over my shoulder periodically and he wasn't following me, I couldn't keep the pace going any longer. As long as I was motivated to get away from the danger, I was motivated. Once the danger was 3 blocks away, I lost my motivation. So what does that mean in terms of leadership? It means if I identify someone as primarily away from motivated, I'm going to have accountability sessions with them more frequently. Wow. Because they don't want to fail the accountability conversation. And so as the date for that accountability conversation approaches, they're going to get back into performing better. I'm going to set goals for them that are shorter term so that I can be checking on them more frequently to keep them motivated. So we have to play to that motivation. And as I said, it's not unusual for half of your employees to be more motivated by not failing rather than being motivated to succeed.
That's good stuff. And I have a book full of notes, and I love this stuff, and I can't wait for the next one. But you guys, man, listen, Um, my panel, I love you guys, man. You guys are awesome. Mike, you're inspirational, man. You're encouraging, man. You are, nothing short of amazing, man, with what you do and the things that you do, man. I can't wait to get you back on here. I can't wait to hear the next one. Where we're going with this next one, man. You guys stay tuned for Mike Armour. He'll be back. You guys stay tuned and keep looking. Okay. For now, it's your boy now.
Step in, lean in, mic on, and begin. Hey! Been quiet too long, chewed up tongue. Turn down songs, clock keeps ticking on the wall. But your name's still missing from the roll call. Let your voice be heard, say every single word. From the low notes to the sky, your hands up high. Let your voice be heard, loud, clear, undeterred. If it shakes the room, that's how you know it's you. Got a truth tucked deep in your chest, heartbeat tapping out, say it, confess. Crowd might stare, let them do what they do. They never held a fire living in you. Let your voice be heard, say every single word. From the low notes to the sky, throw your hands up high. Let your voice be heard, loud, clear, undeterred. If it shakes the room, that's how you know it's you. Name your dream out loud. Stand up, you're the leader of this crowd. One spark, one shout, watch the silence melt. That power in your mouth is the truest thing you felt. Oh, let your voice be heard, say every single word. From the low notes to the sky, throw your hands up high. Let your voice be heard, loud, clear, undeterred. If it shakes the room, that's how you know it's you. Yeah, that's you. That's you. Step in, lean in, mic off. Never again.